Welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I am here with Russell Case.
Hi, Harmony. We have something very exciting for you today. We have Michael Schabort, who is best known as the leading man of the Experimental Witch from 2008. Fantastic to have you on the show.
Oh, it's actually a pleasure.
Yeah.
Wrong Michael, I think.
No, it said it on. There's only the one.
There's only one Michael
on the Internet
Schabort
Movie Database, and Michael revealed to us that he was in the film industry.
It's
so it
true.
has to be the same. It has to be the same
That was
person.
long ago. That's another life.
And
I
so
didn't know there were other Michaels. Actually, I had no idea.
Well, what was it like on set of the
Michael
Experimental
Schabort.
Witch? It says that you were a spiritual group attendee. Which is, I think we're really
It's kind
getting
of aligned,
close.
isn't it?
We're really close here to it really being you.
Yeah. Oh wait. I don't know. Hey, I don't know.
I think it's
Give
you,
me some
mate.
dates. Give me some
Yeah,
dates.
2008, Experimental Witch, Athena is dead. Now, the controversial spiritual leader ended up that way. How the controversial spiritual leader ended up that way creates the intrigue sustaining this global adaptation of Paulo Coelho's best-selling book, The Witch of Portobello. Top credits director Tamsin McCarthy and Louis Reneo. Stars Tamsin McCarthy, and Vicky Davis, Kayla Bois-Witz. Those are all people that you worked with, I imagine.
Are they South Africans?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't. Let's see where Tamsin McCarthy is.
I like
from.
how he's thinking that
South African-born Tamsin McCarthy, producer, director, actress, and musical artist,
I think
transgender.
I don't know all these names and stuff, and I don't know too much about the stuff, but I do think it's possible that I was part of a cast on a group that did something like this, and maybe it is a possibility.
In
Wow.
South Africa, yeah. It's
But I mean,
looking
maybe
more
I'm
and
just
more
totally
likely.
Because I don't know anything about the celebrity world and all that stuff. So maybe these people, everyone else knows about them and I don't. So
it could also be like a very.
And there's another Michael Schabort out there.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Schabord. This looks like you, mate. I don't know. I think we should watch the film and see if you're in it.
We found some obscure film that you may or may not be in, but you don't know.
So I was
South
an
Africa.
extra. I was just an extra in the background.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Spiritual devotee, and you fit the part. One thing I wanted to mention about the name Schabort is that in the United States, the average salary for a man with the last name of Schabort is $38,000 per year, which I think is not bad. Is that
I mean, where do you find that?
On forebears.com, you can find out the average salary for last names. And so I'm just thinking, come to the United States, you'd be making 40 grand in no time per year.
Yeah.
That's nothing to laugh at, I think,
Just because of my name.
Yeah, because of your name. Yeah, that's almost 50,000 Canadian, harm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's considerable.
What do Slaters make?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me just find that out.
Slaters are way up there.
I hope so. We do have some famous Slaters, so that should help me out.
Yeah. Schabort, as we learned, was a corruption of Old German. It's a shepherd. It's most prevalent in South Africa. 365 people bear this last name in
South Africa.
It doesn't seem like a lot, does it?
Yeah, it's not a lot. A rare group.
All right, we'll just see how much Slaters normally make, and just we'll go from
Slaters.
There. Yeah, let's see.
Was it,
Christian Slater is going to throw off the curve.
I know. That's what I'm hoping. My cousin Christian.
Yeah. He's, clearly related to you. All right. So, most common in England. And
no salary.
Oh yeah, the salary. Yeah. Let's get that. It's the occupation, the Slater person.
Yeah, we did slate things with slate.
Yeah.
It's very literal.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Let's just see how I think I'm gonna mention. The average male height is 176 centimeters for a Slater, 163 for females.
That's
Does that
crazy.
sound about right?
I don't know. I think that's taller than me.
Huh.
I think I might be like 152 or something.
That's below
but
average.
I don't know.
That's not good.
I only
is
know it in feet.
Yeah. I'm still looking. I don't
No
know
salary.
why the salaries of Slaters aren't the first thing mentioned, but
Zero. It was the first thing mentioned on yours, Michael.
it was the first thing mentioned
Wow.
for Schaborts. Is oh wait. On average, they earn considerably more than Schaborts. Slaters do. They earn almost 10% more.
Okay.
It's 44,000. I mean,
that's not that much more.
It's 10%.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say 200,000 or something a year.
No, but like over a 10-year period, that's 100,000. That's a lot. That's a lot that you're missing out of because of your name, which isn't.
But I'm not
great.
getting any of it anyway. So
Exactly.
No, if the two of you could come to the United States, we could.
So you were born in South Africa.
What are you?
We've established.
We haven't. Our listeners at home have no idea what you are. You're an actor. What?
So I introduce myself.
Yes.
No, it's our job is to introduce them. What do you know about Michael?
He can introduce
Michael.
himself.
No, they never introduce themselves, sweetie. That's our job.
We don't usually sit around and talk about someone's last name and how much they make via Google either. So this is a new thing.
No, it's not. The comic relief is how we always start the show. There's a format. That's what we do. And then we should say something about Michael. Michael is a yoga teacher.
Yes, and an actor.
And
a retired actor.
Actor. No, that was
starred in The Experimental Witch, which is quite a big film.
Tell us. You were born in South Africa.
You grew up in a winery, like a vineyard.
Yeah. No, not in a vineyard, but on a farm that had vineyards.
That's a vineyard, mate.
Oh, vineyard.
Huh?
A wine farm.
Yeah, a wine farm.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I wasn't born there. I was born in Johannesburg.
Okay.
But my father's family, they own many farms down in the Western Cape. And so when I was about 2, we moved over. And
cool.
I grew up there.
Beautiful.
So, but there were other things on the farms other than vineyards then?
Of course, we had horses, we had mules, cows, all kinds.
Wow.
Sheep.
But were your parents farmers? Was that what they were?
No. No. I guess it's just because the family owned farms. So we lived on one of them.
The Schaborts.
Yeah, the Schaborts. They had a farm called Eversdal, if you know anything about South Africa.
Yeah.
And Eversdal became an area now. And they sold Eversdal, which is an area, and they bought a whole lot of other farms. And I guess, my mother and father wanted to move back to Cape Town, and there was a farm to live on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You described your mother as a healer to us.
Yeah, that's her archetype, I would say. She's not
cool.
like an active healer at the moment, but that, everyone's got their archetype. And if I would look at my mother, she's the healer archetype. Mm-hmm. She's just not active yet, if she ever gets off the ground. Mm-hmm. But she's kind of like been into that kind of thing, like reflexology. And, when I was young, she always took me to healers, not doctors, which I was really grateful for. And, the Waldorf school and that kind of stuff. I don't know if you know what the Waldorf school is.
Oh, we do. Yeah, my teacher Guy came out of the Waldorf Steiner thing. Yeah.
Your teacher Guy.
Yeah, Guy in New York. Yeah, he was my principal Meister teacher, and he came out of that
Okay.
that whole world.
And so it's like more focused on like natural kind of development, I think, right? Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, it's like anthroposophy is like we actually had a main lesson at school about this, and anthroposophy is, well, our teacher related it to anthropology, and anthropology would be, say, the study of humankind, like, you know, of cultures and societies, whatever, you know, ethnic groups or whatever. So he said anthroposophy is similar, except for that, you know, if you were to study anthropology, you would just be studying like a pond and everything that's inside of the pond. And then anthropology is like studying everything that's inside of that pond and how that pond sort of functions. And then stepping out of the pond and starting to walk on land. So in a way, it's a bit like, you know, you had the Theosophical Society back in those days where Krishnamurti came from and stuff like that. And then you had China, and he was like in the anthroposophical, he created the Anthroposophical Society, which is basically like the study of humankind, but on a very sort of esoteric level as well.
Study of human wisdom, could you say?
Maybe.
Yeah, just thinking of the word sophical and its root, I would think perhaps the study of human anthroposophical might be the study of
God, right?
It's like if you go to, there's a place called the Gotianum, it's in Adorna in Switzerland, near Basel. It's in Basel. And yeah, so the Gotianum's like a university for this kind of thing. So if you want to become a eurythmy teacher or a painter or a physicist even, like you can study anything there really. Even, you know, business, but in a holistic way. And so it's basically just approaching life from a spiritual way as opposed to like just a material way. You kind of like see everything. So when they're bringing children up in a school like this or within an anthroposophical family, they allow the child to sort of develop from the inside out. So that's the idea, is that you come from the inner to the out. So they don't repress, they don't try and like shape you, put a uniform on you and tell you have to do this and you have to do that. And if you're going to study maths, then like here's a textbook and now you study maths. Or like we would have, say, history. Instead of like us getting a textbook on this, on say the Renaissance, the teacher would act out the Renaissance and sort of show us things about the Renaissance and give us experiences that relate to the Renaissance. And then we would have to go and do our own research about that. And then we would create a book, a textbook. And that, instead of us reading a textbook from the teacher, we give the teacher our textbook on the Renaissance.
Cool.
So,
neat.
and yeah, so I suppose it's a little bit of a Harry Potter, what do you call that place?
Hogwarts.
You have to have a calligraphy pen and no, a fountain pen. It doesn't have to be calligraphy. It's fountain. No lines. You have to make your own drawings and everything.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
Do you feel like this education and going through this type of schooling like shaped your personality?
It definitely nudged it a bit. Yeah. I mean, I wish I started earlier with that kind of thing. But yeah, I kind of like arrived in at the Waldorf school. I arrived in the middle of like, I don't know, in the end of junior school, you could say, and then the beginning of high school. Yeah. And you know, those were the rebel days. So suddenly I was allowed to grow my hair and just, you know, and you know, it was the time of Kurt Cobain. So you know, we were just wild then, and you know, it's just corduroy jeans and ripped up and like skating. And so I was just like, okay, cool. Well, we left the farm and now we live in the city, and I was exposed to all the stuff. So I went wild, and then I got into like the psytrance scene, and I forgot about schoolwork. So in a way, it wasn't that good. Because I wasn't sort of nurtured into it from young, like the rest of my peers.
Mhm.
So I went a bit wild, and yeah, I suppose that shaped me too.
Yeah.
It's certainly doing a lot of trance work is going to do that.
A lot of trance work.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Like trance dance.
Trance dance is going to
Trance music.
shape you. Yeah. For sure. I did a fair bit of that in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, enormous amount of MDMA and trance dancing together shaped the way that I talk. So
Yeah, we didn't do. Well, I did drugs too when I was young. That was not so good. But
is it not?
didn't do MDMA. Huh?
It's not good?
No, I don't think when you're like a teenager, I don't think it's good. It's not good for your development.
You don't think so?
No.
For your brain.
Your
I
brain.
don't know.
It seems like that's the time when everyone does it, though.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I would have liked. I mean, I'm not against any of these things, but I wish I waited. So
you know, when I was doing an enormous amount of cocaine as a baby
in utero,
in uterus, I also feel like I probably should have waited.
Yeah.
And because you don't know how that's going to affect your development.
We're seeing
normally
the results.
Development. It's okay. It's pre-development because normally the human beings develop after birth. The brains develop afterwards, not before. You're probably got in there in time.
I feel like I could have had better hearing and been taller. And I think that's my two main faults because of the fucking coke I was taking as a 6-month baby.
Maybe.
But I do think that the MDMA and the LSD was very helpful later on in my development, sort of as a counter to all of that previous trauma.
Well, maybe it woke up certain parts of your brain, I think.
Yeah, it's really hard to say what could have been.
You don't know.
In any situation. But you have like a beautiful kind of light to you. You seem like the things that happened to you as a child were really quite positive.
Yeah, I felt quite lucky in that way. You know, I mean, obviously everyone has, every person has their sort of traumas when they're a child, and it varies to certain degrees. But there were 3 boys that grew up. There were 3 of us. There were 3 brothers, and we all grew up on this farm together. And I was the eldest. And my mother left my father and left this farm life, and it was a very big part of our lives. And to be pulled out of that and pulled away from that whole reality that was our kingdom, you could say, was quite traumatic. And for my brothers, it was worse. Like I feel quite lucky in the sense that I've always felt like I have guiding me, or something like an angel. It sounds kind of far out, but I really feel it this way. It felt like, if I was going to go down a dark path, there was only, I could go so far, and before I was stopped or slapped or told to change, or and it was literally some sort of divine intervention. I felt like there was my being is not allowing me to go here. I have to change. So in that way, I feel quite lucky. And it's funny. I always question that. I always wonder, why do some people have that more than others? My brothers didn't have it as strongly, and there are people I've met in this world who just don't have that. They don't have any sort of like guide in that way.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I feel like when we've spoken to or had people with addiction issues on the show, that it's that thing that you're describing that's sort of absent. That's just something that stops. Like, okay, that's probably enough. I should leave the party. I can maybe not do that again tomorrow. But people with real addiction issues, like, they just keep bottoming out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, I never got like that with me. I was like, was very aware that this is not really what I want. This is not really like gonna work.
Yeah.
I was just got involved. I got involved with the wrong crowd of people, I guess, or kids at school, and and they came from families that were like real hippies, nothing
Yeah.
wrong, but
Right.
hippies or but you know, they were sort of like kind of serious hippies, and I guess yeah, we ended up hanging out with the people who are a lot older than us, and they were taking these drugs. So I was just kind of like observing it from a very young age and partaking sort of in a very light way compared to everyone else. And I got out of Dodge as soon as I could. But
that resonates with me because you know, I joke, but I was really like, I think I took ecstasy like 5 times, and I felt like, oh yeah, I got exactly what I wanted out of that. I've had enough, and I didn't really feel like I needed to, you know, spend the next year doing it every day in a hovel somewhere. You know, it's just never, you know, never really like occurred to me. Like I need to get back to work, you know.
How old were you when you left South Africa then?
Well, I left a few times. I was 21. My first trip, I went to the Gokulam. I was really into this whole anthroposophical thing.
Wow.
What did you do there?
It was like a world conference.
Okay.
Concentrated on youth, and basically youth getting together and solving world problems, you could say.
Cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was amazing. I met amazing people, and then ended up working on a farm, and how do I say, biodynamic farm? That's what they call them.
Oh yeah, biodynamic farm. Yeah.
So it's basically, you know, it's like permaculture, but based on, or organic, but based on sort of anthroposophical principles. So they do a lot of witchcraft.
Yeah. They like plant things at certain times, right? And harvest things at certain times, and like, yeah. It's cool. I've listened to a couple of lectures about biodynamic farming, and I was like, wow, this is the way everyone should farm.
Amazing. On the Gokulam, I found tomatoes like the size of pumpkins.
Wow.
I was hungry. We ended up staying for longer than we should have. I met a group of other kids, and we were all like, we hid under the bunkers and stuff.
You might have been the principal research source for The Experimental Witch, the film that you did. That's amazing.
Maybe he did.
Harmony always likes to move away from the parent question, because I feel like we could dig in a bit more there. The dad that was on the farm, was that the biological father, or was that
the biological one?
Okay, because you have a stepfather that's an entrepreneur, so that confused me. And I felt like the biological father was a gymnast, and so this whole farming thing kind of threw me.
Okay, well, you see, traditionally, it's a traditional family, old school. You know, it was super old school. I mean, they had shamboks, and it was terrible. It's something I'm really glad I didn't inherit anything. Basically, I'm kind of free myself from that entire thing. But it was in the times of slavery, you could say, in South Africa. It was apartheid. And, you know, my grandfather had the laborers on the farm on the dop system. And the dop system basically is when you pay them in wine instead of money.
Oh, wow.
Because I would see these people lined up to get their wine at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously that weekend they would go and steal from the farm. They would get vegetables and stuff because they don't have any food.
Right, just wine.
And then they'd get caught, and they would be put in these dungeons, and I would hear the whips like cracking.
Oh my gosh!
They were caught, and that's horrible, you know. But anyway, it was a very traditional, like old school, like old South African, you know, before this new South Africa came out, before Mandela was. And
that's intense.
You say they're whipping human beings.
Yeah, in the dungeons on the farm. They would live on the farm, the workers.
Like they were a bit backward, you know. They were from another time.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that you don't approve of the message.
Yeah, that kind of thing happened. It even happened at schools. I mean, you know, at our school, was still, we were still in that time where, you know, you got jacks and you got whips. And
Wow.
But anyway, the oldest son of the family gets the farm. And he becomes a farmer. So he was pulled out of school earlier. And my father was the youngest son. So he was told to continue studying. So he was interested in gymnastics and he was very good at it. So he did
so
that.
When he
proper Olympic gymnastics.
Like I don't know how old he is now. He must be in his 60s. But a few, like 10 years ago, I saw him doing a double somersault, like on the grass, you know.
Really?
So,
like a flip?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, like he steps back and goes.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
So, you know, I don't know. It's not what I think it was just something he did when he was like, you know, after school and university, when he met my mother. I don't know what he did. I mean, I guess he joined the police force because you had to join the force, the army, and then he became a detective, and then he worked for a bank and that type of thing. Just like he did whatever he needed to do at the time.
Yeah.
But my mum came from a very different culture. She was from a British culture, born in Rhodesia. So that's Zimbabwe now.
Yeah, named after Rhodes. He was an awful human being.
A scholar.
Or relative.
He's not a scholar. He's more of a beast. But colonialist.
Cecil John Rhodes. Anyway, so Rhodesia it was called then, and you know, at that time it was quite cool for British people to own land in Africa and have tobacco farms and stuff. So my mom kind of grew up in that sort of world, I suppose. Her father was a doctor. My grandmother, Mary Lou, she was from London.
Cool.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time. I mean, my mom was very young when she had me. She met my father, you know, on a trip to Cape Town or something like that. And then next minute she was pregnant. And next minute she had to get married. But I don't think she really gelled with that different culture. It wasn't really her culture. So it didn't work out really. There he is, or she is.
Yeah.
Little puppy dog. Aren't you a little puppy dog? Yes.
That's so interesting. So then, and shortly after, it sounds like they got married, then they moved to the farm.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. This is it
was kind of an obvious thing, you know, like now you have to get married, and they're obviously very religious. The old school farmers, they're very there's angelic. Would you call it angelic Christian or something?
Evangelical.
Evangelical. Yeah.
Oh, I might have to get rid of the dog.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think. Oh, you need this, and you want that up there. I see.
She communicates.
This is this like 1975? Is that when you were born?
No, 82. Yeah.
82 you were born. Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking like the Kurt Cobain thing, kind of like I remember I was just entering high school when that came out. And so, goodness. And so your mom left your dad and the farm, which sounded horrific, and then moved to Cape Town to be with your stepdad, probably, who was the entrepreneur.
So he became my father, really. He ended up bringing us up, and my biological father wasn't really present anymore. So I mean, I suppose that was my thing, you know, like he didn't fight for me, and everyone's got their little thing, you know.
Right. Yeah.
We're developing.
I kind of like you deal with it and you move on with your life. So yeah. Growing up.
And so were you there then in Cape Town when apartheid was happening?
Or when it was dissolving?
Dissolving.
It was already gone. You know, Mandela was the president, and we had a whole other world going on by that time.
So that was just when you were like a young child.
Yeah. Like apartheid ended in the early 90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Was that a significant change for you in your day-to-day in your home?
What?
The ending of apartheid.
No, I didn't notice.
Mm.
I was too young. I mean, obviously, like my dad's working the police force, and you have these kind of like farmer, we call them boers, in South Africa, like these farmer kind of policemen that were really sort of thick-skinned and kind of like, we cornered them and we shot them, and they were all sort of kind of, you had the sort of, they even used in the far right wing kind of like party, they used the swastika, and like they were very Nazi.
Yeah.
So I saw that kind of thing. I saw this sort of behavior verbally, in the way people behaved and spoke and treated other people of other color and stuff. But when I was very young, and it was horrible to witness. But my mom was very much against that, and her family were always fighting underground for the ANC and like doing sort of other things. Her brothers were doing a lot of that kind of thing in the Navy and stuff, and sort of fighting for communism, actually, funny enough. Like getting all the getting messages to Cuba, that because the Cubans came to Africa as well. There was a big war around that, the Angolan War, I think. Anyway, I don't know too much about it, but they were all in that, and there was a lot of sort of like trying to help the ANC and try and get like, So growing up in Cape Town, then it was a very different world. It was, suddenly it was the new South Africa, and we things were opened up a lot. So things don't obviously change immediately. Like you still see people behaving in a certain way. Like you still see the segregation, meaning even on both sides. Like people of like the African people, the Bantu races, they were still very submissive in that time. Very sort of like, they kind of hold this energy of being less, and that's slowly changing now, rapidly. But so you still sort of felt that sort of like kind of the difference in education and all that kind of thing. It was still unbalanced.
And like you say, these things don't change overnight, right? It's like in us, how our tendencies, how we act, how we think. And so even though maybe legislation changes, or laws and even like dominant political or even ideology, right? Not even political, just ideology, but internally the change has to kind of happen over some time, because we can't just become different human beings entirely. Right.
I was thinking that myself, I was wondering, like, I wonder if that feeling of having a foundation, like a grounded experience, and that everything will work out, and I'll be able to kind of manage any situation that comes up for me, whether I'm in, with a police officer or at school or with a guidance counselor. I wonder if that's all white privilege. That's that's what's kind of pervading my consciousness, is that sense of that sense of self-determination is just like, I'll be fine.
Or
I'm
just
a white
safety.
I'm a white male. How bad could things get?
At the bottom, I think at the very bottom of it, it's a sense of like, I'll be safe, right? Whereas the alternative is like, someone might die here, and that person might be me, right? There's like not that sense of even like just basic human safety in any situation.
That would lead one to panic.
It's interesting. I mean, and then it also will lead into like nervous system regulation too, right?
And we know that actually does.
That's so fascinating. It's so interesting to hear your story of growing up.
It resonates with me, thinking also about like the rampant racism in my culture and my family, and the very kind of I think a generation back, with like the recent civil rights movement in the 60s, giving way to a newfound Black Power movement, a Black Pride movement, as maybe, as Nina Simone might put it, young, gifted, and Black, and the you can see just like the vile pushback of white supremacy against that notion of Black pride, that even like you could call it a theory, the notion that the reason we had Trump as president, it was a vile white supremacist, child of a Klansman, is because we had a Black president. That there was just a vile pushback at the notion of, I think the way my grandfather would call it is an uppity Negro.
Uppity?
Uppity Negro is, I think, what he would probably use a worse term, but yeah.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, it's just ignorance, really, and fear consciousness. People just afraid.
Yeah.
Afraid of like, but I mean, surely we, I was a bit surprised during that whole time, and all of that came out, and then there was Brexit and all of those things, and I thought, wow, it really was a bit of a shock. And I think, on our planet, we're raising in our consciousness already quite rapidly. Then it's this movement, whatever's happening now, started happening then already, and we were like, wow. Suddenly, like, there was a light shining on everything, really, and you kind of go, well, I thought we were like long past all of this stuff. I thought like as a collective we weren't into this anymore. We had moved on. And suddenly you go, oh my gosh, we've regressed. And the same thing happened in the UK. It was like, oh my god, no ways. And then suddenly, all of this stuff started coming out, and it's just, you kind of go, okay, well, and I mean, in terms of having an experience to confirm that change, like apartheid should have had an experience of revolution. There should have been a fight out of it, not just a handing over. And that's something that we felt quite strongly. It's sort of lingering all the time. There's this lingering sort of like, we didn't get our revenge yet. And that's not really good. I mean, Mandela, even he apparently, I heard that he refused to come out. He refused to just come out the way he did. They actually had to convince him to do it. And he said, no, these people need a revolution. It's not going to work without a revolution. They need to feel like they deserve it.
Right. Wow.
Which they didn't, that kind of didn't happen. I don't want to go too much into that. It is interesting though, right? Like needing some kind of physical or historical like action, like very action oriented thing to mark transformation. Like ceremony, something really actually kind of, there was a what do you call it? A passing through a rite of passage.
Rite of passage.
And you see that even like in religious, traditions where you have like baptism, right? Where you're entering into like a new state as a Christian, or like bar mitzvah, in sort of the Jewish tradition, or, I'm sure there's other traditions I could think of in India, the Brahmin threading ceremony.
A coming of age ceremony.
A coming of age, or like marking a significant kind of change in one's life. And it's interesting that didn't happen there.
What we did when we had a transformation in the culture and a change from one regime to the next is we stormed our capital and destroyed it. It was a sort of a
in America.
It was a rite of passage. That was how we went from Trump to Biden.
Quite barbaric.
These things are emotional.
So you left to go to the college in Switzerland, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you came back home.
Mm.
And then you spent time in England. Was that your next place?
Yeah. I first went to, from Switzerland went to the UK and then came back to South Africa for a little bit. And at some point decided to move to the UK. And I lived there for a good 4 to 5 years or something.
Oh, wow.
When did you do that?
I think it was like 2008.
That's when you were in the movie.
Yeah, it's true.
So you were in 2008 in England.
No, I was working in production. I was not an actor, so it wasn't me.
That's right. When I left England to move to Taiwan. What part were you in London? Where were you? London, yeah. Were you teaching yoga?
No, I wasn't. I was just working
the theater.
In the theater, yeah. And so was yoga a part of your life at that?
You weren't in the theater?
Film production.
Yeah. We're just making little movies and things. But no, I practiced yoga. I practiced Ashtanga before. You know Michael Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was actually born in the hospital that used to be my father's house, where my father was born.
Oh, Christ! You do look like him too, mate. Jesus,
Michael. It's funny. They call us Little Mike and Big Mike. You know.
Yeah.
Oh
wow! Yeah,
I think you're actually quite a bit bigger than he is in stature.
Is that right? Is he a big lad?
No, Michael Hamilton's quite.
No. This Michael in front of us.
Well, I don't know. You seem tall to me, but
you're
I'm very short.
You're a tiny. Michael is a middle-sized person like Krishna, and just as beautiful.
Both middle-sized people.
A very purple-skinned, beautiful, middle-sized man is Michael. Yeah, that's how I remember.
I'm taller than I look. I mean, I'm shorter than I look. I look taller than I am.
Maybe you have a big energy.
Are you about the same height as Michael?
Yeah, we're more or less the same.
Yeah. Michael and I are also about the same height. Middle-sized, middle-sized people. Yeah.
Anyway, I came to South Africa when I was like, at school. I had a Waldorf school teacher who she did sabbatical in the East, and I was doing kung fu at the time. I was like 18 or something, and she said, "Oh yeah, when I get back from the East, I'm gonna challenge you to a duel. I'm gonna go and study something." And it was kind of her humor, and she kind of like. She arrived back after 2 years or something of being out in the East, and she said, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Okay, so what did you study?" And she said, I studied yoga. And at that time in Kung Fu class, they were like, "Yeah, don't do yoga. It's for gays,
Yeah, sissies, for sure, yeah.
Old people.
Yeah, still today. Okay.
And so I was like, "Okay, yeah, like you're doing yoga. I mean, what are you going to do to me with your yoga?" And she was like, no, come, like. And she had met Michael along the way, and they had really connected. And Michael always called her his teacher in certain ways. And she'd always, obviously, he was her teacher. But she was a very wise, amazing human being. I mean, she was from another time. Really, it was incredible just to be around her. And I mean, she was into so much more, She was like really, she had a huge... understanding for Greek mythology and Egyptian things and all kinds of, I don't know, she was just from another time. And had big questions. And, I had a lot of questions when I was young, and she kind of like entertained them. And she always kind of played with me in this.
Yeah.
And she kind of like got me to roll out a mat, and then she started teaching me primary, and I was like, wow, this is really good.
Cool.
So I always kind of kept that with me, and then every now and again Michael would come visit her, and we'd make some soup, and then he would tie us up and stuff. And that's how it all really started for me, but I never really like took it seriously. I mean, in those days they used to be like, yeah, you should go to India, you should do this, you'll probably become a teacher one day, you should do that.
Wow.
And I was like, nah, I'm not going to India. And they were saying, you should see Michael's teacher. And I wish I did, because I only went years later after I had a sort of like breakdown in London. I was like, okay, I got to get out of this life. So it was like, I don't know, 7 years later, then I ended up going to India.
Wow.
We do love to hear about people's breakdowns, because that's how we find the harmony, is out of the bottoming out. Is that something you'd like to talk about at all? Like what happened in London that was not good?
Well, I started partying too hard, really.
Mm-hmm.
I went to some of those trance parties.
Yeah.
And I was working hard at the same time.
Yeah.
And eventually it didn't work out. And I suppose I had very sort of privileged friends, yet you could say they were too much on that side. They could afford too much, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always got these VIP sort of backstage tickets to this festival and that and this and this and that and whatever, never ended, you know. And I kind of like, I was burning the candle on both ends. And eventually I remember being at home, and I woke up one morning and I went upstairs to the kitchen, and there was this girl lying on the floor with big glasses on. I thought, how did you get, who's this? And anyway, so I was like, and I walked past, I stepped over, I was like, what is going on? And she said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm hungry. And and then I felt a tap on my shoulder, and there was this other girl. I don't know, she came out of nowhere, and she said, well, open your mouth. And she put a kapha-vata in my mouth.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's very friendly.
And you know, in that, for that time, it was like, wow, this is, I mean,
so
I don't
generous.
know, where did this come from? Anyway, but you know, it's just kind of, I think that day was a really beautiful day. A lot of people ended up being at our house. I don't know how they got there. I was living with a friend, and you had friends, you know.
Yeah.
They were coming over, and we partied on the rooftop, and it was amazing. But I remember at the end of the evening going, I can't do this. This is not right. This is not me. Like my being was saying to me, change. And my friend had done a lot of vipassana, and he's, you know, his he also came from a family that practiced Ashtanga, and so he kind of said, well, why don't you just get back into that stuff, you know? And he also knew my teacher Penny, so he kind of suggested it and said, what, just go and do vipassana. Like they have a really good one in the UK in Hereford, a good sort of Goenka temple. So I you know, I started doing that, and then after my first vipassana at that time, it was in 2008. I just didn't want to go back to work.
Like I just want to meditate for the rest of my life. I wanted to do
something else. Yeah, I just wanted to do this, and I felt like just so connected with myself again, and I just didn't want to stop doing meditation. And I thought, well, let me go to India. Then I met my other teacher. I had already met. There's another teacher from Israel that used to come visit us in Cape Town a lot. So the first thing I did is I booked a ticket back to Cape Town because he was going to be there, and I studied with him for some time.
What was his name?
Shimon.
Shimon.
I know him.
I wonder. Guy has told me about a very kind of phenomenal Israeli teacher that he knew, and I wondered if it was the same person.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
His English wasn't so good, but you know, he was this type of person that would speak. I mean, his teachings weren't. He wasn't like he didn't teach you the Ashtanga sequence like, you know. He didn't give you the right vinyasa count, all that kind of stuff. He wasn't into that. But his Dharma talks and his, you know, just being with him, being in his presence, that's really where the teaching came from. And I found that very inspiring. Like there was a moment where he was helping somebody with some sort of issue they had. And I remember him sitting with this person, and it was like there was a bubble, there's auric bubble around the two of them. And it was a very windy day, and some girls walked into the shala, and the door blew open, and it was a big glass door. The walls were also made from glass, so it was like kind of like a greenhouse, and everything just smashed and made a huge noise, and they were laughing, and everybody kind of like turned to gaze at the commotion. And I was looking at Shimon and how he was with this person and this auric field around him, and nothing moved. He was so present. Nothing changed. And I thought, wow, you know, like I would like to understand that more. How does he was just so present. And he would speak about, you know, the need for a superpower, and at that time, you know, you go, oh, superpower, it could be anything, but when you're sitting with them, you sort of feel like you're in the superpower. So and I felt like, yeah, obviously we know what you're talking about. And he was talking about the situation in our country at the time, particularly saying, you know, that a lot of people go and try and help these people in the communities, and they want to change things, and that's the biggest mistake, that we really need to offer them a superpower. And a superpower is just consciousness, really, I suppose. It's in this case, he was particularly having a talk about samadhi, but being in that space constantly, being devoted to that, being devoted to maintaining your connection with yourself in a way, and whatever that, you know, however we can translate that in an experiential way. So we were experiencing that being with him, and I thought, oh, you know, I guess after that, like, I went back to London, and that's when I quit my job. And I booked a ticket to Mysore. That's how I ended up in Mysore, really.
Wow.
What was that first day like for you, flying in? Where did you fly into, and in what way was it overwhelming?
To Mysore.
To Mysore.
Yeah, that was awesome. I kind of like, I broke up with my girlfriend, and I was totally like, and I also mended some old relationships. I felt completely free and open, and not that it had anything to do with, like, you know, meeting girls or anything. It's just like that relationship thing was just left me feeling very sort of like, okay, well, I'm right at the beginning again. I'm just open, and I'm here. And I arrived in Bangalore, and I didn't catch a taxi to Mysore or anything. I just stayed in hotels and stuff, or like little places in Bangalore, trying to make my way to, because I didn't know you can get a taxi or a bus. Like, I was like, no, I'm gonna catch one of these buses that go to Mysore. And I took my time. It took a few days. I got lost. And it was just
you got lost in Bangalore.
Yeah,
I did that. I walked out, and I just like, and somebody had like the Hamsa bus, and this guy was yelling out, Mysore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll grab that bus, and it was like 25 cents, and then like 3 hours later, I was in Mysore.
3 hours?
Yeah, maybe 3-4 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
On the bus.
On the bus, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, great. This is for me.
Wow.
If it's the same word, you know, like,
how did you find your way out of Bangalore to Mysore?
I caught one bus that took me to a bus station that was very far away from the main bus station that was going to go to Mysore, and then I had to walk to the next one. And you know, you would ask somebody at a bus stop, and they go, no, 3 minutes, walk this way. And like 20 minutes later, I'm like, okay, so you know this bus stop is no, 15 minutes, just straight walk. And then you walk, and then half an hour's gone by, and you're like, okay, maybe I should get on this bus. Yeah, no, just walking. And then I'm like, no, I'm getting on the bus. And the bus like took another 15 to 20 minutes, and we eventually get to this bus station.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds right.
The third day or something, and yeah, that was cool. And then I remember, that
started
nice bus ride. It's so beautiful, just seeing all these sort of, like, it was the first time in India for me. So first time in India is always, I think, quite touching.
Yeah. It's so special.
And so you arrive in the middle of the night, probably, into Mysore, and how do you get to Gokulam, and what happened?
I met a rickshaw driver, and he took me up. You know where the cricket field is in Gokulam? You know, not the cricket field, but where they play. They play cricket.
Yeah, with the water tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a beanie with some of the guys.
Good.
And a Coke.
Yeah.
And then I was supposed to, like, I remember my mother saying, oh no, you better be careful. Like, we need to book you into a hotel. And there's the Green Hotel. And she like got all these things organized at this Green Hotel. And then I said to her, oh yeah, I was supposed to stay at the Green Hotel. And they're like, yeah, oh, we can find you a place. And then they showed me a place down the road, like literally down the road. And then I was like, okay, I'll just stay here then.
Yeah.
And that was great. I was just there.
That's amazing.
Was it like with a lady in her home, or was it like an actual?
No, it was like just a room.
It was a room,
with nobody else. Oh, there was the Finnish
Oh,
crew were downstairs.
that's always good.
Katie and Johanna and
good.
Daniel. Well, I don't know where Asta was at the time, but Daniel was around. I remember we were all hanging out.
That's fun. We'll find you a room.
Did you say Asta Kaplan?
Asta Kaplan,
yeah.
Is she Finnish?
Yes.
Oh fuck.
That's so interesting.
No, because
that you're
Harmony said that we have to interview Asta, and I thought, oh, she's Jewish. That'll be fun.
No, I said she was Finnish.
No, Asta Kaplan is like the most Jewish name ever.
Daniel's Jewish. Daniel Kaplan, her husband.
Oh, is that where you got the name from? Oh yeah,
I think it's his birth name.
yeah. That's because Asta's original name is probably like Matthias' daughter or something like really Jürgen. Yeah.
Something unpronounceable to English speaking
Tukkinen, yeah. Latinen, Heikkinen, Hokan, something like that.
I love the Finnish language. I think it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It is a wacky place.
Very difficult to get right.
I love the Finns. I love their personality. They're so hardcore and nuts, and I just love them.
Yeah.
Love everything about that fucking country.
So that was so interesting that you met Asta on your first trip, because
no, I didn't meet her.
Okay.
I think she had just left, or I don't know if she was there. But Daniel, I met Daniel. They weren't married yet. They were just about to get married.
Oh, cool.
Japan Dan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We always call him Dan from Japan.
Japan man Dan.
When I met him in 2004, he was working in Japan. I forget where, but doing the translation. Like English to Japanese translation for things.
And he had gone native.
Even though he's not Japanese at all, he's American. I always all of the friends called him, Dan from Japan.
Yeah. I never thought to think of him as no longer Jewish Japan. Jewish Japan Dan.
Jewish Japan Dan. No, that's amazing. So you stayed for 3 months on your first trip, or how long did you stay there for?
Yeah, that was 3 months.
And you mentioned this, and I think this is a delicious little story that Sharath noticed you, and it was like, "Oh, I'm going to take you for my own." That's always
because you were practicing with Saraswati.
Yeah, because you remember Saraswati was in the same room.
Yes, she would do her classes like afterwards, right?
No, it was like there was a crossover period
where they were all there together.
Yeah.
And but I think she had to go somewhere. It was like she had to go somewhere for something like that day. So Sharath took all of us.
Right.
And then and then like the day before, Saraswati told me I should catch, and I said to her, no, maybe tomorrow. And then she was like, oh, no good. Tomorrow's no good. Like, anyway, so nothing happened. And then I remember doing my dropbacks, and then Sharath was in front of me, and he kind of like says, well, he just says go, and I'm like, okay. Oh. And then he made me catch, and he took my hands right up, and he was like, very good. Mm-hmm. Next year you practice with me.
Yeah, you're mine.
Next year you practice with me. So funny. Yeah, he snatched you out of Saraswati's basket.
Yeah. I wish I knew at the time how competitive or territorial they were.
Yeah.
Because that took me a long time to figure out, because I thought I was just practicing with the family, and then you find out that they own the particular students, and that can be very awkward in your interactions with them. Is what I discovered.
Yeah, because you think they're just a happy family and it's all yoga and everyone's.
Oh no, far from it. Yeah.
You're like, I'm with. Or like I remember seeing Saraswati once in Barcelona. I just thought, oh, cool, I'll go and pop in and say hi.
Yeah.
And I practiced, and she was like, where are you from? Who are you? And all this kind of stuff. I said, no, you practice Sharat? And I was like, yes. And I was saying it so, kind of like, yeah. And she was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
You don't belong
oh my
here.
God, okay.
No.
I don't know. I mean, we don't know. I'm not gonna
So
speculate.
funny.
Yeah.
So where did you go after your first trip? Did you go back home to South Africa?
In what year is this? Where are we now in your life? Is this like 2008, 2010?
No, it must be.
Yeah, 2009. No, 2010. 2000 end of 2010, 2011.
Right.
Yeah.
We might have met in Mysore.
Yeah.
It's possible. That was
And so did you
stop going? Or no? You both still go there.
Do we both still go there? That's a good question.
I
went continuously from 2003 to 2012, and then maybe 2013. I had a little break, and then you were going really hard there at 2012, 2013, and got your certification.
Well, I went every year from 2004 to 2017.
Yeah.
Except for 1 year, 2011.
You had a baby. That's the one. Yeah.
And
baby,
just that year.
And then 2017 was the last time. And we really blew the doors off that trip. And
haven't recovered quite yet.
We're
still recovering.
Talk about burning the candle at both ends is, oh my God, that trip was the most physically exhausting.
Wasn't that when you guys got married?
We
started dating.
I remember seeing that on social media, like suddenly, like Hami just came to Munich just before that. Just literally
that's when we met.
And I was like, something's going on. And then I saw your ex in Mysore that trip immediately.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, something's definitely going on between them. He was like, Jedi's, something about, and I was like, okay, well, okay. So I and then I saw that you guys hang out with Sharat, and I was like, oh, okay,
something's up. Yeah, something is up. There's a story in the air. Yeah,
people love it. It's funny.
They do love it.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not sure. Did we meet in Mysore before? I think we might have. Our paths might have crossed, right?
Yeah. I remember meeting you in Mysore.
Yeah, I don't remember what year though. It all blurs together for me. All those years.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say this, and I wasn't sure until we got on if I would. But I'm really enjoying your company, and you seem like such a nice, affable fellow. And I don't mean to disparage you in any way, but you have a particular kind of type to me, and I'm just wondering, and I just want to see if it's true. Are you a kind of star?
Star?
Are you a star? Like one of these phenomenal fucking practitioners that just kind of arise out of the ether? Are you one of those? Like an Alaya?
I don't think I'm an Ashtangi, to be honest with you.
Oh, so that's in your rearview mirror.
Let's talk about it more.
Yeah. But was
okay,
there
I mean, I
just like threw postures at you? Did he do that?
Stuff. Huh?
Yeah.
Was there a time when he just threw postures at you and just like go?
Oh, right. Yeah. Like in terms of, does the practice come easy to me? For sure.
Wow.
It's like, it's never been a problem. And I have always had this thing where like, I kind of like, I preferred, I remember there's always people always looking for postures, right? People always waiting to get a new posture or to get this or to get that. But I've always had the opposite. I've never had that. I've never been like, oh, I hope I get a new posture this season. I've never had that.
Right.
Yeah, it's
always been the opposite. It's been like, okay, like I hope I just can just stay here and relax,
Relax.
Yeah, true. He does. He gives me a lot whenever I'm, but I don't go that often. I always go every second year.
Yeah.
Mostly, because of economy and whatever, or responsibilities, or there's always something.
Yeah.
So. But you have that beautiful balance of strength and flexibility, so that's what you're seeing.
I'm looking at his aura. And his aura is saying to me, like, there's like this kind of wonderful space and openness, and that's biological. You know, that goes right into the cellular structure, and you see that with guys that do 4th series. I don't know if you're doing it now, but you know, I'm sure he wants to get you into 4th series.
Well, that'd be great.
Just looking at you, you look like someone that it's in your cellular structure to do it, to have that. So, like, reading what you sent to us and reading your Instagram profile and looking at things that you've read, what I've kept coming back to is like, oh, I feel space with this guy, and space in the human body equals flexibility and softness of the tissue. It lends itself to that. And I just had never seeing you do a fucking posture once. I had the feeling that maybe you had that maybe that dough-like quality to the sinews.
I think it's a decision that you can make. Like, if you, do you know what I mean? If you have the privilege of, as you said, space, like if you understand space, and like, I think my temperament is fortunate in that way, where I'm very open. In my mind, and I feel spaciousness. Spaciousness is a big topic for me. So I feel like space is probably the most important thing for us. One of the most important things after being grounded, which is my thing that I've been working on, because I'm in so much in the space that I'm not that grounded, or have not, it doesn't come naturally to me. So for me, it's all about grounding and becoming more in my body and present. But from there, spaciousness is really important, because that's where we find joy. That's where we find freedom. That's, you can only flow where there's space. If there's no space to move in, then you can't really flow. And then you're going to get this kind of like friction, right? And friction is what we want to, that's going to create suffering, I suppose, conflict. And this life's all about friction. So if they say this life's suffering, then, you know, that makes sense. Because of the duality and the blockage, really. I think when things become stagnant, they become dull and dead. And so, you know, from the very beginning in this life, we're always moving towards that. You know, it's always like our fate to move towards death and becoming sick and stagnant. And the only way out of that is to orientate your mind towards space, and that's a decision. I think anyone can do it. It just comes easier for some, because of their temperament, perhaps, or because of their collective sort of information, the data that they carry, as far as whatever. But you know,
when I take a lot of muscle relaxants, that's how I feel. I feel the change in personality, and I say, this is how Brett Porzio must live his life, is like this. And you said to me, is like, well, if there's anyone that Michael Schabort is most like, it's probably Brett Porzio. That's what you said yesterday. And I
like
thought,
your kind of
and so
aura and practice style.
If you want to get better in the practice, I'm just going to suggest people to take muscle relaxants.
All right.
On a daily basis. Just, you can take like microdoses.
Microdoses.
And then you'll develop that.
An idea. Spacious. I remember once experimenting before lead intermediate. No, ibuprofen, you know.
That's not so bad, but the ibuprofen.
No, we know about taking ibuprofen. Let me tell you.
And you were doing Pincha and Karan-Navasana, and I remember just falling down, like I was like melted into everything. And I had no strength though. That was the problem. There was no. I couldn't come up. I could get into everything. I remember kind of going, why I feel so open today? I feel so relaxed.
Yeah.
I realized it was like, it lasts 8 hours, and I took it like just before going to bed.
Dude,
and we wake up early hours in the morning and then go to practice.
You're talking to two people that would take 4 or 5 capsules a morning, every morning for a decade. Yeah, because we were on the opposite end of the spectrum of having too much strength and not enough space. Both of us are burly in our sinews. And so that ibuprofen that works so well on you, we had to overdose on it for it to do anything. Just to feel like you could do an upward dog,
Well, I'm curious. I want to hear more about what makes you say you don't think you're an Ashtangi anymore.
Wasn't that intriguing?
Yeah.
No, it's just the label, it's like this identification maybe.
Yeah.
I think I could quite easily I could prefer not to be that or anything. I always, whenever I put myself out there, I don't do much of that, but when you have to, I will say yoga, because I like to stay open. I don't want to be I don't want to close to one system or one ideology, or because people get the wrong idea. It's like the word love and the word God and these things. People get the wrong idea about these things. And then you say Ashtanga, and it's like people they have preconceived ideas about these things. And I feel it's just unnecessary to say you're RA anything. Like, I'm not a vegan or anything. I like vegan food, it's quite nice, but I'm not going to be a meat eater or a vegetarian or anything. It's like, I would like to be open. And I'm quite interested in just, I feel like, and I think, we all go through these things where we have to break up and then make up, break up, make up. So that's happened many times. Like, I'm sure it has for both of you guys. Been around forever. And so I whenever I've gone through that, so wait, what was my point with that? I've just lost that thought.
It's like an evolution.
Yeah. Eventually. Yeah. No, what was this? Something about kind of just you I'll just relate it to the identification thing. Like, you really identify with whatever it is that you're doing. And in this case, with Ashtanga, it's been like that. You kind of like very easily identify with an immediate community, immediate sort of, and then you get authorized for doing 9 months of practice or something. And suddenly you're like respected and all these things, and it's ridiculous. It's so easy that you could just end up thinking you're the shit,
Right.
So obviously, and then with that, you have this whole backup of ideology, and I was interested in serious questions about life. I want to know about God, and I found like these sort of things really distract you from that. You start falling into the biggest trap ever, and I guess after a while, I kind of just, after many times of having my little inner breakups and stuff like that with the ideology of whatever we're doing, I kind of like, you break away from it, and you kind of go, okay, this is not really being honest. But then the practice works so well, and then you kind of like fall back in. That was one stage. I remember that happening. The practice was so good, and then so you go through many different variations of that, right? And the more recent, I think, is that I really actually felt like I don't really want to depend on, I don't really see, like, I'm really open to completely not actually going this yogic route. It's necessary, like completely, not just Ashtanga, but everything. Like, okay, so yoga, that's the darshana, that's the view. Like, let me just let go of the whole thing. And let me open up to other things. And I think that's actually what it was, is that, you know, staying open allows you to evolve, because then you fall back into it. And, you know, now I fall back into my practice, and it's a completely different practice, because I'm not doing it for any, it's not associated to anything. It just works. I just feel so good. I just do it.
Yeah.
And I prefer to keep it that way. I prefer not to, like, sort of label myself, because I could let it go any moment. And maybe that goes with the spacious things.
It really does, mate.
Qualities, like the reason why I haven't been, the reason why I got married, actually, to be able to kind of just like commit to something, you know?
Yeah.
That's why Harmony and I got married the first time. Try and settle down. No,
it makes sense though. I really like that. Sort of like being able to let go of the ideology, even like the methodology, even like yoga altogether. In order to figure out what really works and what really adds value to your life and to your experience, and what's really helping you to focus the mind or find peace or, you know, feel spacious. And it's like a complete overhaul of preconceived ideas and notions in order to let like what's really sustaining you, or what can really sustain you, or what can really like reveal something, you know, of substance or truth, or, you know,
and then it
enlightenment.
Becomes like really yours.
And
that is authenticity. It's really something that you've discovered within yourself, and you kind of gone, okay, well, I'm not doing this for any kind of belief system, or I'm not following any sort of like, as we said, ideology, but or methodology, or, you know. And I also, it's like, what are you giving people? What are you, you know, like, I, you know, just on the 9-month thing, you know, like if you're going to be a teacher after 9 months, and you really are like steadfast on this like identification, that's a really kind of dangerous place, I think, because you're teaching something that's supposed to be a spiritual path, and you are sticking people up against the wall, basically. You're saying, you know, this is, and you're actually just completely way out of your depth, because you're not really you know, you're not a leader of any kind.
You're just mimicking your teachers.
So that's often, you know, we all see that, and we all kind of maybe have been there at some point, but now it's
absolutely
kind of, you know, I suppose the washing machine goes on and on and on and on. You sort of have your makeups and breakups, and eventually you kind of get to this place where it's like, well, I'm, you know, if I'm not open, I'm not really going to evolve. And we need to go beyond. I feel like the yoga it's an incredible subject. I love it. However, I don't want to discredit, or I don't know if that's English word, discredit, or discredit, you know, the evolution we're going through right now, and the discoveries we're making in the sort of spiritual realm right now. We're making breakthroughs. We are seeing new things. We need to be open for that. We can't be sitting in an old traditional sort of historic way. We can't be locking ourselves up into that box. We need to kind of like open up the lid of the box and really experience life as it comes. So, I mean, at one stage for me, it was like sort of tantric teachings more, as opposed to yogic disciplines, being more open to that. Now, okay, I'm like done with that, but there's still more things, you know, there's always going to be more, you know.
And all these little explorations also inform your experience, and you take something from them too, right? It's kind of a beautiful thing.
And that's what the yogis did, you know. I'm going to get into yoga. That's what yogis, the ones that wrote the Shastras, they were like that. They weren't like trying to fit into their Shastra boxes.
Yeah, they're using the phenomenological experience of being alive as an insight to what reality is. And that seems to be where you're going with this, that just the idea that you might be pushed into a label gives you an urge to rebel and find what is really real.
I mean, the rebel thing, I'm not really into the rebel thing anymore, because I was there. I remember.
Let's say the rejection of a label is what I meant by the word rebel.
Yeah.
As you don't even want to be tied to the word rebel. No, it's amazing. I feel like there's something to labels that are
money in the background.
That's nice. There's something to labels that are brittle and dry in Ayurvedic sense, that even the rejecting of that is giving you spaciousness and moisture, and that all kind of then bleeds into the cells of your tissue. And it's incredible.
He's very jealous.
I don't know if I'm jealous, like because it would require being a different person, and I had so much pride about being dense and strong, and I knew in my heart every single time I did a vinyasa that I was unable and unwilling to let go of the power that I carried in the vinyasa.
Funny, I'm actually jealous of that. No, really. I mean, I'm quite jealous of people who have like very kapha temperaments, for example. Not that you do, but that kind of thing really just, I'm like, oh, I wish I had that strength and that power and that unlimited force within me, that I'm sort of like somebody you could just flick into the ether.
You're floating away already. We're trying to like tether you down.
What comes with that is an insufferable stubbornness and an unwillingness to change. And that I think that's at the heart of our two beings. Like those are two people who are not going to do the other.
But a little bit of balance would be helpful.
It would be good for us. Yeah.
Like Michael said at the beginning, he's working on the grounding energy.
Primary work at the moment, yeah.
I need to learn how to give up.
You need to work on
Just go.
Let go of things. No.
I mean, I spent over this whole pandemic time, I haven't really been doing my practice. I have. Okay, now I'm doing it. I'm not like, but
you can not do it. It's okay.
I kind of spent a lot of time like just being like sort of going, okay, well, I didn't practice today. I didn't practice maybe for a few months actually. Maybe 3 months at a time, and I really like that. I like to be able to just not care. And now, I'm doing it every day. That's the amazing thing about having students. Yeah. And a wife that practices as well.
Yeah, they give you some inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this very thing recently. Like that place or that space when you're kind of fresh with the practice and you feel like, oh, I need to do this every day to be balanced, or to not like be irritable, or to like, this is my medicine, this makes me well. That kind of like attachment to the practice where you feel like if you don't practice, something's wrong and your day is totally off. Yeah. And how I was thinking about this very thing, like for me, I don't feel that. I can not do the physical asana practice and feel totally balanced and totally fine and totally like beautiful. Like everything's beautiful. Nothing's wrong. I'm having a great day.
Yeah, until you start feeling like something's off.
Yeah.
And
But
then
I
it's like
think
you found it out yourself. You're like, okay, well, it's not because I think I didn't do my practice that it's off. It's like, actually, something's off. I wonder what it is. Oh, I haven't practiced for 3 weeks.
right? Yeah.
I think maybe I should do my practice again. And then you go and do it, and
Yeah, but it's interesting how I think when you become established in that, like in a practice, and when your nervous system becomes more regulated and your mind becomes more like, I guess, clear or balanced or peaceful or something, that you can kind of hold that space without trying to hold the space, but it just lasts longer. Right?
Established.
Yeah.
Mind is established.
Yeah. And then you notice like, oh, I'm starting to like feel low. I need to like reconnect to that prana, to that energy, and like build it up again. But then it's coming from that place in you that's like this is a tool or a resource I have that really works to build prana, to build connection and life energy, and like help me go in, rather than like I need this to feel normal.
Exactly. Then it becomes like exciting, and it takes on a whole new sort of like, sort of like rekindling a sort of romance with your practice.
I think that's the benefit of mystery. You're like, oh, there's something intriguing and not known. And I've so often rejected mystery in pursuit of a program and programmatic development that is egalitarian and fair. And that was a minefield in Mysore. Like getting into that, and feelings of fairness are gonna crush your soul.
That sounds very democratic.
But if you go into like an anti-programmatic, anti-label pursuit of the mysterious, which is the mystic experience, then you can really just have a nice time. You
just open then. There's no this or that. It's like, say you're a really big sort of person, like physically, and you can see someone floating around like a feather and just really enjoy that experience of being around them. And that's your experience of being a feather. But your whole way of thinking, there's so much joy and juiciness within you that you just enjoy that. And and know that that's changing, I guess, or whatever it is, it is. There's nothing you can do about it.
Changing or not changing. It is.
The only constant we have is change. So
is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the only constant. Maybe it just
if it looks like it's not changing, it's just because it's changing so slowly we can't notice it.
Or maybe it's not changing.
Regressing.
Either way.
You're only observing, and the prakriti is always changing. Maybe it's not changing. But you're still only observing.
The yogis say that only awareness doesn't change because it just is.
So maybe even prakriti changes or not changes.
Apparently, if we were to travel at the speed of light, somewhere and come back, things would have moved on a lot more. Be around everybody, and they'll be very old and stuff like that. And if you were faster than the speed of light, you would actually be younger than what you were when you left.
Time is very much related to speed.
It's related to the Earth moving around the sun, or around its axis. Because of the Earth, that's why things change.
The faster you go, the slower time operates. And so from the perspective of, say, a star of light, or say the Big Bang and the beginning of the universe, from the universe's perspective, because it's going so fast, time is operating at such a slow rate. From the perspective, if you were to apply consciousness to the universe, from the perspective of the universe, time has not yet started.
We're still in the Big Bang.
Just a titch.
Just a titch.
Whereas the rest of us, fucking 30 billion years later, mate.
Yeah. Okay, so we're really in slow-mo.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
like sloths.
Yeah. Just like sloths. Wouldn't it be nice to be a sloth? That's a nice day.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in Venezuela?
What, isn't he leaving Venezuela?
Well, he's there now.
Isn't he going to Africa?
I'm going to Africa eventually.
We met. Hold on. Let's go back. Let's go back a little.
We can end the podcast.
I know.
We don't need to get into all these little stupid details.
When we met, and I came and visited you in Germany.
München.
That was in 2016, I think.
Why are you so fixated on history?
And then you started your own program there.
I'm getting stoned just being next to this guy, and you're now doing a Russell case.
What do you mean? In Munich, I started my own program.
Yeah, did you start your own program in Munich?
Yeah, I mean, that was ages ago. That was in 2014 or something.
Right. But you were teaching out of a studio, and then you went to a different space.
Yeah,
right?
Actually, it was Michael Hamilton that he organized that gig, because it was the studio that he worked for in Zurich that now Brett's working for, right?
Okay.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
There's a weird little triangle there, isn't there?
Yeah. So I assisted him for like a year or something in Switzerland.
Michael, yeah.
And then like the owners of the studio had their sister studio in Munich, and they were like, yeah, we wanted to do the same thing. So they asked me to go to Munich. So I went to Munich, and I didn't really like the way the woman was operating. It was not good, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I left. I left and made my own program, which I think they weren't too happy about, obviously.
No,
but it seemed necessary because I guess I just wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to achieve something.
Yeah, you wanted to build something or create something that was your own. And so how long were you then in Munich?
Like 4 years or something.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And did you meet a nice Venezuelan girl?
Yes, I did.
Nice. In Germany or in Deutschland?
No. There's like
in Mysore, you said, yeah.
Yeah, I saw her in Mysore. I fell in love with her. Saw her in the cocoa tree. She was like this wild Latina, and I was like, wow.
You saw her from afar.
Yeah.
Intriguing. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was then, and I had a girlfriend at the time, so I was like,
oh, you got rid of her, all right. And then was she German, that one?
She was actually she was from Ecuador.
Oh.
Your spirits are drawing you.
What
Central America.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, mate. Why make the change?
It wasn't going to work out,
Yeah, you just know.
Living in Colorado illegally and all that kind of stuff.
You were living in Colorado.
No, but my ex-girlfriend was.
She was. Yeah.
Okay.
She was. Yeah. She wanted me to live. She wanted me to just stay there, and I was like, well, that means I'm living in the USA illegally. I didn't want to do that. So
yeah.
Right.
And I was offered this job in Munich, and I thought, okay, well, let me go to Munich. And but anyway, so years later, Liz got hold of me to ask me to go to Frankfurt. She was going to Frankfurt quite a lot, and she couldn't because she didn't. There was a vaccine issue with Germany, and COVID vaccines and stuff, and she didn't want to do that. And so she asked me to go, and I was like, well, I'm not doing that either. Right. And so I'm definitely not going to Germany. At that time, Germany was like
really intense.
Rigid.
And sort of like, they were getting a little bit strict. I don't know. It was getting a little bit tight in Europe at the time. Yeah. So I said to her, like, well, I'm quite interested in coming over to see you. So I came over here. And then
And did you start the program there that you're teaching now, or was it already up and going?
Liz has always had students here. She's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
But she had just started this shala. She kind of, I remember when we started talking, she asked for my advice on whether she should take, put a deposit down on this rent, on this house where our shala is now. And she was in a bit of a piddle. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to she was offered a job in like another country, a big studio kind of thing, or she had this option to stay here and start something with community and be here. And my advice definitely was be with community, stay where you are. Don't follow that.
Yeah.
But I think she had already made that decision inside, and she decided to open this. And then she asked me, okay, look, she showed me some pictures, said, do you want to come as well? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm coming. So she just opened up this, and then I came over. Yeah.
Amazing.
And how long is it? So it's been like 6 months then here in Venezuela.
7, 8.
7, 8 months.
Nice.
And you might go back to Africa.
Well, I've been trying to extend my visa and doing visa runs and all that kind of stuff. So we got married to, not just because of the papers, but it kind of was in the sort of,
the stars.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had to do something, otherwise I would be doing visa runs all my life. And, Africa is very far away from, or South Africa is very far away from Venezuela. So, yeah, I sort of foresaw that being a big problem. And I came here with my birth certificate in case that was going to be a problem. And it has been a problem, actually. I mean, you don't just rock up in Venezuela, and like nobody can just do that unless they have an invitation.
Right.
So, every single time I need to renew my visa, I need to get a letter. I need to do COVID tests and all these things. And I have to fly to some country that asks me for a list of vaccines. And so I don't really want to do that every single time, every 3 months. So now we've got an extension, but I have to leave after the extension.
Right.
And so, yeah, I guess I have to go home this time. It's been going on for like 7, 8 months now.
And your partner's name is Lisa. Is that right? Liz Carrascal. Can you say that again?
Liz Carrascal.
Carrascal. Liz Carrascal.
Maybe I'm saying it wrong.
No. But
I might hear her sort of correcting me just now.
Is she going to go with you back to?
Yeah, that's the idea. So
just for a visit, though.
No, I mean, these are still ideas now. We're not quite sure what we're going to do.
No, we're trying to get you on tape, man.
They're free spirits. I never know where you're going to end up, Michael.
I mean, we're Cancerians. We need to build a home. And
yes.
Okay, I'm a little bit more, Leo.
Yes.
So, I'm a little bit more free spirited, and I've traveled all my life, and I've never really committed to anything. So this is quite new for me.
Yeah.
What's
her star sign?
I'm on the cusp of this Cancer and Leo.
Right.
I'm 4 minutes away from Leo. So,
yeah.
So those who are into astrology. And
July 22 or 21?
23.
23. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just easier for her to get a visa now. That's all. It's easier for her to get a visa to come to South Africa. But that means we give up something we've built up. Yeah. And obviously that's also very difficult. And I've done that too many times in my life. I left South Africa a few times. Programs behind me. Spain as well.
So you're ready to find a home.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to have a place that you can like travel to another place and then come back.
Yeah. To have a real home.
Yeah. That you feel like when you arrive, you're like, oh, this is nice. I know this place.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, I've been just always living out of a suitcase and and you start feeling a little bit weathered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing where you end up and what's next for you. You've been all over the world since we met, so it'll be wonderful to catch up with you somewhere along the way. Maybe South Africa.
Come back to South Africa.
Oh, I would love to. It's so beautiful there.
Did you visit him there?
No, I visited Ulriki. Is that how I say it? Ulrika? Ulrika.
Yeah, that'd be
but
amazing.
We went to Cape Town and all along the coast of South Africa. Yeah, so
that'd
beautiful.
be phenomenal. I'm sorry. I don't think I actually know anyone invited me. I just realized.
The problem with South Africa is so far from everything, everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's also what makes it really special.
You got to make it like a thing. Like, okay, I'm gonna. And you did a safari, right, when you were there?
Yeah, we did the safari, and
you're gonna have to.
Yeah, we did like a whole tour kind of around, and went to like the wild cat rescue, and all different things. An ostrich farm, and
Yeah. Ulrika take you. She drove you around.
We rented a car for that part.
Okay.
Yeah, but when we were in Cape Town, she would drive us around.
I have to say though that I do really enjoy your energy, and it's infectious, and I'm enjoying its effect on me, and so I would think that anyone would, and having the pleasure to work with you in a Mysore room would be really exquisite. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being our guest.
That isn't an official invite, by the way. So
you can tag along if you want.
Oh, I love to. I'm just an expensive accoutrement.
She's not going to be as enthusiastic. She's going to be like, well, Africa's far away.
You've been to other parts of Africa.
I've been principally to Kenya, Nairobi. Yeah.
Nice. Nairobi.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
It's a big continent.
It's a big old place. You can fit like 3 or 4 United States in it, and still have room to breathe.